As we have been reporting, the president is expected to leave the White House in the next hour to speak at a forum on Saudi investments. This is the latest part of the visit by the Crown Prince. So let's bring in Daniel Benaim. He is an associate fellow at the Middle East Institute and a former deputy assistant secretary of state for the Arabian Peninsula during the Biden administration. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
So Saudi Arabia has a big financial stake in a lot of sectors. How important is it for President Trump to not just simply maintain this relationship, because that has been the policy of this government going back for almost 100 years, but the question that perhaps people have is how important is it for the president to build up MBS and to build up the relationship with Saudi Arabia beyond just this sort of agreement that we have between the two countries?
Well, I think it's quite important, and it's pretty clear that President Trump thinks it's just about the most important thing going. I think what you saw was what it looks like when Donald Trump really wants to cultivate a partner. And it's clear that these are the partners in the world, people like MBS, that he most values. So I think what he's trying to do is not just maintain this relationship, but really kind of supersize and reinvent it, which was something that started actually in the previous administration, to have it be not just about security and oil, but about things like AI, chips, big business deals, critical minerals, mining, and even, as we saw yesterday, civil nuclear cooperation. So it really is a new U.S. Saudi relationship, and I think it's one that this administration is putting a whole lot of stock in.
All right, and yet we saw big investment promises by the Saudis during the first Trump administration. Those didn't materialize. So what's expected to be different this time?
Yeah, I think when you see these numbers like 600 billion or a trillion, you have to understand these aren't real numbers. They're kind of a vibe. The bigger the number, the better the vibe. You are going to see major sales, major defense sales like the F-35 fighter jet, major sales of advanced semiconductors and microchips, which seem likely to finally move forward, major investments in the United States. These kinds of things will happen, but $1 trillion is about the annual economic output of Saudi Arabia. So I don't know that they're going to hit the $1 trillion mark, but they don't have to for it to make a real difference in terms of the economic trajectory of both countries.
Would President Biden have chosen to sell these F-35s to Saudi Arabia, given that Saudi Arabia is a close ally of China, and there is some concern from intelligence officials that the Chinese might try to steal that technology? That's the first question. And the second part is, the investment sounds great for the United States and the American people, but on the other hand, the Trump Corporation, through the president's sons, are also building out their business interests. The president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is building out his business interests, receiving $2 billion from the Saudis. Is there any, to you, does that strike you as, is there any whiff of impropriety with those kind of business deals that are happening around the investments that may benefit the American people?
So two great questions. On the first question about the aircraft, I think the devil is really in the details. The Saudis are an incredibly close security partner of the United States, and they have some limited partnership with China. And the question is how they insulate something like this from any vulnerability, technological or personal vulnerability to China. And I think the small print here matters a lot. And you have to hope that the president, who's kind of a big picture guy, and the team, which has been shorn of some of its experts, are really willing to focus on those technical security details and haggle to the last minute to get them absolutely right. I think there is a way to do it that's responsible. Whether President Biden might have ultimately done something like that as part of Saudi-Israel normalization, I think is a reasonable question. The real question is, are they doing this in a responsible way to protect the tech security of the United States? And I think that's yet to be seen. As far as the financial entanglements of the president's family and some of the other figures in the administration and their relatives, it's highly, highly unconventional. And I think, frankly, it takes some things that are probably in the national interest of the United States and casts a cloud of suspicion over them in a way that's not helpful to the important work that they're trying to get done, whether it's chips or defense or investment.
Finally, the Crown Prince did not apologize, but he sort of did admit that the murder of Jamal Khashoggi was, quote, a huge mistake. I thought it was also sort of a surreal moment there to have the President of the United States scolding a journalist in the Oval Office next to a man who has, who, according to the president's own intelligence agencies and according to the Biden administration, had a journalist that he didn't like dismembered.
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to Jamal Khashoggi, two things can be true at once here. I think, first of all, this was a horrific incident that can never be erased. And I think you heard Crown Prince Mohammed himself saying essentially that this was a painful mistake that can never happen again. And in the past, he said that he takes ultimate responsibility for it. You then heard President Trump kind of jeer at a reporter in his presence, which I thought was really unfortunate. I would have liked to hear much less from him on this issue. I thought what the Crown Prince said actually was notable. But then the other thing is that will always be part of the story of this U.S.-Saudi relationship and the story of these leaders. But I think we're trying to write a different chapter here that has significant promise when it comes to the U.S. and Saudi Arabia in terms of what they're trying to build in their country and in the Middle East and what we're trying to do together in this country. And that's incredibly valuable. And so we have to hold those two truths in our minds at the same time here, I think.
It's an excellent point. Daniel Benaim, thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.